start. So, good morning, all you diehards. It's 11 o'clock. Thank you for showing up. And this is Paul's last session on our politics. So, will you all please silence your cell phones or turn them off? And we'll turn it over to Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you want the lights out, Paul?
No, unless you do.
No.
Today I'm going to be discussing the media and then wrapping up the course as advertised. And I have to cover a lot of information quickly. So I'm going to plunge right into it. We won't have as much time for class discussion, I'm afraid. But hopefully I'll leave a little at the end if I can. First of all, what is media? Or what are media? As there are many kinds. Well, there's print media. And by the way, it's not that I don't think you know this, but some of it may come as a surprise if you're not thinking widely about media. For example, print media includes books. We don't usually categorize books as part of media. Media we usually think of as television broadcasts or newspapers and magazines, but books, newsletters, and brochures are all aspects of print media. Broadcast media, television and radio, and perhaps it will come as a surprise that radio is far more effective than television is in communicating on a mass level throughout the country. Then there's internet and digital media, websites, social media, such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and so on, blogs, podcasts, streaming services, and apps are all part of internet and digital media. There's outdoor media, such as billboards and other forms of public displays. So there's quite a wide kind of communication that takes place that we simply call media. What are the functions of media? Well, as you might know, information and news, delivering current events and factual data, also entertainment, movies, music, shows, video games, education, teaching and disseminating knowledge, advertising and marketing, promoting products and services, and social and cultural influence, a very big part of media today, shaping public opinion, fostering discussion, and driving social change. Now, characteristics of media, including, first of all, mass communication. So its media are designed to reach a broad audience. New media, such as digital media, allows for the participation of individuals and the creation of content through anyone's creativity. And bias. Now, bias we'll talk about a little more, but the information presented can be influenced by political views, advertisers, or not saying something, omitting information is a form of bias. We'll talk more about bias in a moment. In today's Inquirer, as I was reading it this morning, I looked at the letters to the editor, as I often do, and here's what I found. A letter titled Slanted Viewpoints, and it's a long letter. Viewpoints may be showcased, it says, by the Inquirer, and 95% are slanted to the left. Where are the news articles? Now I'm reading from this letter. Where are the news articles, editorial pieces, and political cartoons highlighting the tens of thousands of violent, criminal, illegal immigrants whom U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection have removed from our streets? Got that? Tens of thousands of violent, criminal, illegal immigrants. And it goes on to say, the same question can be asked about radical ICE protesters impeding law enforcement or disrupting a St. Paul, Minnesota church service. And where is the outrage about the massive fraud situations in Minnesota and California? Massive fraud. Well now, the writer of that letter feels quite sincere as he severely criticizes the Inquirer's handling of news. And where does he get the notion that there are tens and thousands of criminals being deported? From the news. All right? So you have before you an example. He wasn't making that up. He was simply transmitting something that he had learned from his news sources. I don't know what they are, but obviously they're not the ones that you probably listen to. So there you have an example of media's influence. Let's talk further about media. In my handout, by the way, the handouts are available on the forum, so you can download them and print them if you can. Okay, what I want to do is move along. Republicans have long harbored significant skepticism of mass media, which Gallup defines as newspapers, TV, and radio, when it comes to fairly reporting on the news. In the past few years, trust among Republicans has bottomed out. Democrats are starting to catch up, with an 18-point drop in trust of the media since Mr. Trump's first year in office. So they're talking about skepticism of the media and increasing lack of trust. Now, I have given you too much information in print that we can cover here in the class, so I'm going to cherry pick among the things that I've included. Okay, commentary on the media. You can't read that. Commentary on the media by journalists. That's the heading. Let's talk now about this next one. I'll just pick certain excerpts. Cable TV Here it talks about plight of the news business. Oh, yeah. Cable TV networks are shedding audience share at an alarming rate. And we've heard that. In fact, for a while, I thought that Rachel Maddow was going to be pulled from MSNBC, which is now called MS Now. Somehow Jeff Bezos decided to rename it. Cable TV networks are shedding audience share at an alarming rate. Many national newspapers are losing subscribers. Right there. Are losing subscribers and hollowing out their coverage. And local media has been shriveling for years. Truly here in Philadelphia, as well as everywhere else in the country. The Inquirer has very few pages now, and many kinds of reporting has been discontinued. The preponderance of voters who get no news whatsoever suggests the very notion of an informed electorate. And that might become, the informed electorate might become a thing of the past. How do people make a decision if they don't have news, if they don't have access to opinion? And unfortunately, when many people do have access to opinion, like our letter writer, the opinions are misleading, misguided, totally wrong. There are places all over the country where granular coverage of local politics is non-existent. So when you find people who love MAGA, who support everything that Mr. Trump is doing and his administration is doing, don't think that they're just crazy or deranged, misguided. They just don't have the news. And if they don't have the news, how is it that they develop their opinions? Well, along the way here, I think we find where people are influenced, or at least think they know what the news is. Let's keep going. Oh, yes. Oh. The media remains fairly clueless about the America that exists outside the big cities, where most political writers and editors live. The coverage missed badly the surge in Trump voters in places obvious in rural America, and less obvious, Hispanic heavy border towns in Texas. Right there. Okay. The media filter bubble is getting worse, not better. Trump supporters feel like Fox isn't pro-Trump enough, while reporters and columnists bolted the New York Times, Vox Media, and others because they were not woke enough. The bottom line, we're losing the war for truth. 2/3 of Republicans doubt the election was free and fair, despite the fact that election officials in every state see no evidence of widespread fraud. Mentions of Democrats cheating and similar ideas were raised more than 5,000 times on syndicated radio shows and local broadcasts this year. This goes back 3 years ago. according to an analysis of data, a monitoring service. Similar ideas were mentioned a few hundred times on television shows and podcasts tracked by a service that tracks this. Radio remains perhaps the most influential conduit for right-wing thought. Despite the rise of podcasts and social media, tens of millions of people nationwide, especially older Americans and blue-collar workers, listen to it regularly. Misinformation experts warn that talk radio channels, many of which air political commentary 24 hours a day, receive far too little scrutiny compared with other mass media. And then it goes on to say, liberals or even moderates never listen to it. They don't pay attention to it. They don't see it. They don't hear it. They're not aware of it. In Wisconsin, local radio stations play extreme right-wing propaganda 5 or 6 hours a day. Now you see where our letter writer is coming from. Okay, over the past 2 decades, the newspaper industry has lost over, now these data go back 2 years. And at that time it said the country has lost nearly 2,900 newspapers. And almost 2/3 of newspaper journalists YouGov, which is a very active and well-regarded polling organization, asked a panel of American adults where they get their news. The most common sources were television and social media, with nearly half citing friends and family. YouGov found that the most popular social media sites were not seen as particularly trustworthy. YouTube and LinkedIn were the only sites viewed as more trustworthy than not among American adults. Yes.
Wait a second.
I'm wondering, can we assume that the same situation is in European countries, Great Britain?
No.
So it's different there?
I would not assume anything.
Well,
because I don't know.
You don't? Okay. I'm just wondering whether, France, Germany, England, maybe somebody else knows. I don't know.
I think we have enough Soros here. Soros, you know that word? It's Yiddish.
We see right-wing movements developing in Western Europe.
Yes. Well, right-wing is growing all across the world. So the question is, what's bringing it on? There's been a lot of written about populism, and populism that's veering to not to the left, which would be veering towards socialism, but veering to the right, as it is in this country. By the way, Soros in Italian is agita. Maybe you know that term. Okay. We have here, among Republicans, X and Truth Social were also seen as more trustworthy than not. Although among Democrats, trust in X collapsed because Elon Musk is not very popular, and he has overhaul of the platform. All right, let's let's see what else we want to talk about. It's the reporting. Right here. This is written by a reporter for the New York Times. The reporting I'm most proud of is when I use my voice to stand up for people whose lives or work had come under attack, whether they were public figures or were dragged into the public eye because they'd dared to speak or act in ways that unjustly elicited professional or social condemnation. And she refers to a popular novelist, a physician assistant, a Palestinian writer, a beneficiary of affirmative action, a public university president, social work students, and a public health expert, all who risked opprobrium from peers by calling out their professions and other evils. Nowadays, by the way, that was written only this last April. In a world in which too many people are inclined to think of politics and morality as team sports, one side good and the other side evil, nuanced stories that complicate facile narratives demand to be told. Unfortunately, the problem we have is, who do you listen to? And who is factually correct? And we're getting further and further confused by the media, the fragmentation and the distance between the truth in one medium and another. Social media has succeeded in accelerating the fragmentation of liberal societies. Sorry, guys, but this is a little shaky over here. Okay. Social media plays into the hands of identity groups. It connects like-minded people with one another. It permits them to communicate and to wall themselves off from people and views that they don't like. In most face-to-face communities, the number of people believing a given outlandish conspiracy theory would be very limited. Online, one could discover thousands of fellow believers. By undermining traditional media's editors, fact-checkers, and professional codes, it facilitated the circulation of bad information and deliberate efforts to smear and undermine political opponents. And its anonymity removed existing restraints on civility. Now, we've seen this. All right. Before I go on to bias, let me show you a couple of things, clippings. Since we have been in Black History Month, in the Inquirer of this last Sunday, there's a presentation about black media is our most potent weapon and sacred sanctuary. See, the black community is dreaming of how to communicate, and they're finding it in black media, which unites the people with factual information and opportunity to interact socially. That's a plus for media. And here's a minus for media. Pardon?
I think it points to more fraction.
Okay.
I don't disagree that it's a plus, but it also points to the problem that you're talking about, which is the fractioning of people into smaller and smaller groups.
That's right. The fracturing of America into tribal groups. And that's what we're talking about here in this course. Political tribalism. Then the black people who are getting facts may be getting facts that the white people aren't getting. And I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah.
But it works the other way around as well. The problem really is that more people are not getting facts. They're getting opinions, and the opinions are propagandic. Here's another article from the New York Times. Again, just this one comes from 2 days ago. From the editorial board, Trump's stifling of dissent reaches a new level. So how are we going to remain a liberal democracy if we cannot trust mass communication? And I don't have the answer. But that's the question that we all have to cope with. Let's move on to media bias. Media bias is the bias of journalists and news producers within the mass media in the selection of the events and stories that are reported and how they are covered. The term media bias implies a pervasive or widespread bias contravening of the standards of journalism rather than the perspective of an individual journalist or an article. The direction and degree of media bias in various countries is widely disputed. All right, at any rate, we see here that the practical limitations to media neutrality include the inability of journalists to report all available stories and facts. Well, we're shedding journalists. And the more journalists that are not able to work, the more newspapers and magazines that go out of business. Even the television, they keep changing on MSNBC. Nicole Wallace used to be the anchor to one of these panel shows, and now she's conducting interviews with famous people. Rachel Maddow has gone sideways also, and we see increasingly, even on the very popular liberal programs, they're losing viewers, and they're changing their format, the formats of their star anchors and influencers. And here, Harry, is a reference to other countries. Perhaps it might answer your question.
Guess who's visiting Trump, I think, this week? Is
Hold 1 second.
well, for example,
Wait, here, sorry.
I was just thinking, that the new Prime Minister of Japan is visiting Trump this week, and she's very conservative. So this must occur in other countries, former liberal countries at least.
Perhaps the Prime Minister of Italy is conservative.
Yeah, yeah. And how about, and I'm not sure about Germany. I think Germany is.
And I don't know Germany. But anyway, it says here, government influence, including overt and covert censorship, biases the media in some countries. For example, China, North Korea, and Myanmar, Burma. Politics and media bias may interact with each other. The media has the ability to influence politicians. Politicians may have the power to influence the media. This can change the distribution of power in society. Market forces may also cause bias. Examples include bias introduced by the ownership of media, including a concentration of media ownership, Rupert Murdoch, Jeff Bezos. The subjective selection of staff or the perceived preferences of an intended audience. Okay, here are types of bias. There'll be an exam after spring break, so take note. Coverage bias, when media choose to report only negative news about one party or ideology. See, they have a lot of discretion in reporting, in kind of the journalism that's being undertaken. When media choose to report only negative news about one party or ideology, and this is not on one side or the other, it's on both sides. It's liberal journalism, it's conservative journalism. Gatekeeping bias, also known as selectivity or selection bias, when stories are selected or deselected, sometimes on ideological grounds. It is sometimes also referred to as agenda bias, when the focus is on political actors and whether they are covered based on their preferred policy issues. Statement bias, also known as tonality bias or presentation bias, when media coverage is slanted towards or against particular actors or issues. Of course, the right think that the left media has Trump derangement, and consequently they would be guilty of this kind of bias if true. Other common forms of political and non-political media bias. And there's a whole list here which I'm not going to take the time to read through, but I would recommend that you look at the handout. So this is a long list. Other forms of bias include reporting that favors or attacks a particular race, religion, gender, age, sexual orientation, or ethnic group. And that gets back to your comment, Susan. Since a particular race, this case, the black race, is being favored in the reporting.
I have a question about,
Yes.
isn't there a sensationalism bias? News is popular because it's sensational.
Yes.
Whatever side they're on, they like to excite people. That's how they make their money. Or I'm just, maybe I'm out of the loop here, but.
Yes. Well, that's been a kind of a ongoing belief among folks that the media needs sensationalism. There's probably a lot of truth to it, because sensationalism sells copies. It also, and when you sell copies, you attract advertisers. And these are the two sources of income that many publications require. So, yes. Going on, here is an article. Donald Trump is trying to destroy the freedom of the press. He has removed 4 major news outlets from Pentagon office space. Okay. Here is something I copied off the computer from Hillsdale College. Are you acquainted with it? It's a far-right college. But they're offering a free course. Have you seen the ad? Okay. I'm glad to show it to you. You can discover when citizenship is vital by claiming your free DVD box set of Hillsdale College's course, American Citizenship and Its Decline. Taught by a historian, and here's a link. Let me tell you how they're selling this. For too long, unelected elites have chipped away at the rule of American citizens, replacing self-government with open borders and control by a ruling class unaccountable to the people. As someone who loves this country, I know that weighs on you. It troubles me too, and that's why this course matters. In 8 fascinating lectures, you'll explore the erosion of the middle class and self-rule, the disappearance of sovereign borders, the rise of tribalism and the deep state, modern assaults on the Constitution and freedom. So while the liberals are saying this is what the Republicans are doing, the Republicans are saying this is what the liberals are doing.
It's the same thing.
Isn't it wonderful that we are bipartisan in believing that the world is coming to an end here in America? This course will open your eyes to the challenges we face and inspire you to help defend liberty. Okay, folks. I was going to be, yes.
As an antidote to tribalism, we should all now immediately subscribe to that course. Don't you
know.
think? Yeah?
That's right. Well, you see, although you're saying that in jest, I'm sure, there are people saying you should listen to the other side, and maybe you'll learn something, and maybe it will help to bring the two sides together. Personally, I don't believe that. I believe, as I've said in class before, that ideology is impenetrable, that you cannot change someone's mind once that person has an ideological belief, because it's grounded. It's not just a belief, it's a belief that's grounded in morality. If there is a moral dimension to a belief, people aren't going to change their beliefs. And America is now engaged truly in a civil war. So the question is whether the left will succeed or the right will succeed, and we just don't know what's going to happen. In the Bible, Moses runs into this problem, you see, where the people he's been leading out of Egypt really want to go back, and they really don't like the things that they're encountering in the desert, and Moses has to keep them in the desert for 40 years until the old folks all die off and the young folks who have not been in Egypt are ready to go into the promised land. Now, this is an example that comes out of the discussion of paradigms. And America today is in a paradigm of conflict. And the question is, we old folks have to die off? Do we have to die off and let the young folks take over and return our country to its liberal democracy? Well, that would be a good valedictory speech, but I have another 20 minutes. So let's talk. I also included in your handouts a little handout on federalism and the importance of states to balance the federal government. And as you've seen, I'm sure, there are states that are able to do things in the light of the federal government's refusal to do them. And America was organized with states having co-authority with the federal government. And so Amendment 10 of the Constitution says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. So, we're hoping that the states will remain, many of the blue states will remain blue, and that the red states or purple states will turn bluer. But I can't really talk about federalism. I would like to go on now and talk about what I'm supposed to talk about in our last class, of diversity of tribal cultures. Revisiting tribalism and political identity. We internalize new cultural identities with every new community we join. The human brain is wired to automatically encode the ways of communities that nurture us. We pick up cultural patterns unconsciously without even trying to. And this is a statement by an anthropologist who wrote a great book called Tribal. All right, so let's talk about the critical role of tribalism in human development and evolution. And the same writer, I believe he's at Columbia University, if I recall, he talked about good tribes. And he said that a culture evolves around 3 layers of tribal instincts. And he's talking about tribes, not necessarily political tribes, but tribes. Well, the politics may come later. The peer instinct to see how other tribal members think and how they act, and to mirror their everyday actions and thoughts. That's conformity and groupthink. That is a true description of people and tribes. That's what helps to bind the tribe together. The hero instinct, identifying outstanding tribal members and patterning ourselves after them. So if we believe that Nelson Mandela is a true hero, we would like to learn how to conduct ourselves the way he did. Or Mohandas Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, or Barack Obama, or anybody we look up to, identifying outstanding tribal members and patterning ourselves after them to gain esteem, status, and satisfaction. The ancestor, oh yes, John Wayne is one of those people. Steve Jobs. The ancestor instinct, the third aspect, as we learn traditions and feel the duty to maintain them for continuity. How does a wife in a Christian family behave? What is now called the trad wife. The children of doctors who decide to go to medical school. Attending prestigious law schools to join prestigious firms. Country singers wearing cowboy hats. A great tradition. These are all elements of shared communities united by ideologies and goals. They provide motivation for members to belong to and to contribute. Each tribe creates a distinctive culture. Such tribal cultures will evolve, however. The community whose culture contains these instincts may be an occupational group, a group of steel workers, an ethnic or racial group, a political party, a bureau in an organization, the weather meteorologists in the Weather Bureau, or a country overall. That's what makes us police officers, engineers, Democrats, or Americans. How do we think, speak, and act? This concept goes beyond our daily lives or even historical eras to describe how our human species evolved over tens of thousands of years. Our tribal capacities to act as a unit collectively enabled our human ancestors to hunt, make weapons, build shelters, cultivate and farm, build cities, create art, and learn how to invent technical innovations that brought us from the Stone Age to the 21st century. We couldn't have done it without tribes. Now, that's good tribes. What about bad tribes? There are toxic dimensions. There's no doubt that political tribalism has turned toxic in America today. The rift between the realities of Republicans and Democrats has continued to grow, and along with it, mutual distrust. In the 2018 midterms, the Democratic defeat in Georgia was greeted with denial and lawsuits. Come 2020, after the red wave turned into a blue shift, the Stop the Steal movement filed lawsuits and pressured state officials in an effort to halt the transfer of power, culminating in the January 6 march on the Capitol. To Democrats, an insurrection. To many Republicans, true patriotism. Inside the Capitol, the two parties have come to inhabit increasingly separate realities, to reach across the aisle to pass legislation. No, it's not done now. Legislative gridlock has become the rule, with recent Congresses failing to come to agreements on almost every issue, which gives rise to more executive unilateralism that further inflames partisan resentments. And this is called toxic tribalism. Andrew Sullivan, who is a journalist, described the reawakening of a long-buried urge for blind allegiance and primal hate for outsiders. Do you have a primal hate? Toxic tribalism unlocks a primal fear and loathing, a genie escaped from the bottle that we can't put back again. Okay, I don't know if that's hyperbole or if it's truthful. The red and blue factions have always disagreed on subjective evaluations. Is the president doing a good job? So subjectively, you've got to make some analysis, but increasingly they disagree about objective facts. Was the election of 2020 fraudulent? Is climate change a hoax? And so on. By the last election, the two camps held different factual beliefs about global warming, fracking, Clinton's emails, Trump's ties to Russia, and many other matters. We also form warped perceptions of the opposing party. And this one will kill you, as Jimmy Durante used to say. Republicans believe that 38% of Democrats are gay, lesbian, or bisexual, when it's actually 6%. Democrats believe that 44% of Republicans earn over $250,000 a year, when it's 2%. Republicans estimate that 50% of Democrats endorse the statement, most police are bad people. It's really only 15%. Democrats estimate only half of Republicans accept that racism is still a problem in America. In reality, 79% do. Okay. Partisan blindness arises from peer code conformity, where tribe comes before truth.
Where are you? Down at the bottom. Oh, I see that. Thank you.
All right. So, what Morris says, sectarian extremism arises from indoctrination into traditions, perceived threats, and the incitement of mesmerizing ceremonies, like that march in Charlottesville in 2017. There are many ceremonies, rallies, the fomenting of hate. Hate has been spreading. So the last piece I want to cover is this question. Can America overcome toxic tribalism and divisive identity politics? Can people embrace a different tribe and a different tribal culture? And there was an essay that was published in the Washington Post, and I've reproduced it here. A lady who was a former creationist, and she's written a very moving article. It was written by a Muslim woman whose cultural background and community were rooted in creationism, which rejected Darwin's theory of evolution. These excerpts eloquently describe the difficulty or even the impossibility of changing tribes or remaining in a tribe but adopting a different belief system. All right, so what I'd like to end with is a poem from Langston Hughes. It was new to me. I don't know if you're acquainted with it, but let's read it. Let America be America again. A voice. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love. A second voice. It never was America to me. The first voice. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? The second voice. I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. The first voice, oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free. Oh, yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. And that's it, friends. I will open the floor.
Well, we have an election coming in November.
And I'd say Minneapolis has given us a model for bridging these terrible gaps. And it comes down to, if you live in a community and you see somebody suffering, you help them. And that erases all the tribal distinctions that you've talked about. I think it really is possible. And I know we're all feeling really discouraged, but I just think that what we're seeing is people responding to the cultural call of Christianity, Islam, Judaic traditions. Help the stranger.
I'd like to believe that's true, and we'll see. Because you'd need a reversal of the dwindling of religion as it's been occurring through our secularization, through more people rejecting a religious doctrine, classifying themselves as nuns rather than as an affiliate of a religion. I think it's bad. I think secularization has a bad effect. Existential philosophers believe that too. They believe that you have to have meaning and purpose, and religion helps to give us that. Yeah, Harry.
I wasn't old enough to remember all the details, but there is a somewhat similar parallel to America before World War II, when half the country did not want to go out again and solve Europe's problems, which we had done more in World War I. I mean, it was so bad. The divisions were so deep then that Roosevelt couldn't, do more than listen to what Churchill was begging him to do. I mean, obviously it ended when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. But we were divided as a country, and if the Japan had not bombed Pearl Harbor, who knows what would have happened?
Yes.
I throw that out.
Possibly World War II was a good thing for America in that sense, because it was heading down the tube, as you say. Yes.
Can I say something that's probably you're all going to disagree with? You're all upset about secularism, yet right now I see religion as being one of the big problems. Evangelical Christians who supposedly believe in all the moral things that we believe in the idiocy of throwing out immigrants and all those kinds of things. And so I don't know. I think it almost comes down to people's basic human instincts to care for one another, that mothers love their children, that people love their neighbors. I don't know that religion is the answer.
Thank you. I don't know if that's, we don't have answers yet.
We never will, we never do.
Anybody else?
I think it's easy to become discouraged, and yet I see some hope. I see some hope in the election in New York City with Moldami. I see some hope when I watched on TV Morning Joe yesterday, excuse me, and John Ossoff's speech down in Georgia and Atlanta. It was inspiring. I thought, these are some young people that are bringing the fresh winds blowing in the political stream. And this morning I watched Jack Schlossberg, who's running for Congress out of Manhattan. There's some young voices that are starting to make a difference, I think. So we shouldn't be so down on ourselves that we forget there's still hope.
You know, as I said earlier, consonant with the story of Moses and the Israelites, Moses finally gained entrance to the promised land through the young people. And maybe we just have to hope that our own young people will bring some common sense to America as well. Anybody else?
Well, I think with
Thank
that,
you.
Paul, we'll end, and thank you very much for this inspiring series. Certainly has given us a lot to think about.
Thank you. Thank you all.